This is FCTV, fan-controlled television. Programs created and produced for the fans, by the fans of fan-controlled sports and entertainment. As always, power to the fans. And now, it's time for the show.
It is time for the show. I'm sorry, I was just reading text messages. I can't hear you.
Oh, no.
There you go. Now I can hear you. You're good. You're good. Sorry, we're just reading text messages from Makuga, wondering why we're not talking about Fallout, because he apparently watches that show. Hey, maybe we'll talk about it soon. As soon as these goofy cartoons stop being so rad. I mean, come on.
As soon as a bunch of Korean people start drawing it, then we'll watch your Fallout.
Heyo. Hi, I'm Kenny Stevenson.
I'm Alex Enriquez. Welcome to Fan Controlled Fandom.
We did it. Alex, you look like you're in a different locale. Where are you right now?
Well, I'm as part of Fan Controlled Sports and Entertainment's exhaustive wall-to-wall coverage of the NFL Scouting Combine that started this week. I am at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis to cover the Scouting Combine. It's really great.
But Alex, like it's the draft. Like the Scouting Combine was a couple of weeks ago, and the draft is actually happening now in Detroit.
Right. Yes, I know. I realized that when I arrived. I told everybody at Fan Controlled I was doing this, and they could reimburse me later. They said they wouldn't be doing that, but I did all the planning, and I got the combine and the draft confused. So the draft's in Detroit right now.
Yes.
The combine was here in late February, but there's a different event here in Indianapolis that it's interesting enough to cover as well, but definitely not in the purview of Fan Controlled Sports and Entertainment. So I'm here at Lucas Oil.
Lucas Oil Stadium, home of the Indianapolis Colts of the NFL, which I'm sure will be picking some football players this weekend on the 72 hours straight of the NFL draft. That's some wild stuff, man. People sit and watch 7 rounds of people talking about other really young people, and that's what they do for hours on end. It is.
I watched the very beginning of the coverage, and they had like a video piece where it was like Roger Goodell associating with Detroit legends like Eminem, and in part of the piece, they're like Eminem says, they're gonna boo you, right? And Roger Goodell, as part of the piece, goes like, I could take it, like very casual, whatever. He comes out, they boo him. He clearly has a hard time with it. He clearly is like, okay. There's an edge in his voice that sounds a bit like he's gonna say, okay, hey, if you don't stop booing, we're not gonna have a draft.
Oh, I love that.
Vice principal in his voice.
I will end this thing right now if you guys don't behave yourselves.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn this league around, go right home. We don't have to have a season. I'd be perfectly happy not to have a season.
Oh man, sidebar. We'll get to fandom in a second. We have a mutual friend of ours. I won't do names, but I'll tell you who it is off air. They when they were little, they had a whole trip planned to Disney World, and they went down to Orlando. They were living on the East Coast, but in the northern part of the East Coast, and they went all the way down to Orlando, and apparently the kids were acting up the whole way. And mom and dad were like, hey, if you kids don't straighten out, we're going to turn around and go home. And the kids didn't straighten out. And you know what? They turned around and went home. They never went to Disney World.
God bless.
Isn't that some next level stuff?
Here's the next level of it. Those parents never planned a trip. They knew that those bad kids were going to be bad the whole way. And they were like, this is the ultimate bluff call. We want to fix these kids today. And spend 19 hours in a car. Yeah, that
might be worth it. That might be worth it actually, to like not actually like dangle that carrot out there and then use it as a way to get scare your kids straight. I'm kind of into that.
They're going to be Bebe's kids the whole way. You're not making it down to Orlando. So
there's no way.
Turn around and go, that's so brave.
You get like halfway down the New Jersey Turnpike and you're like, well, I mean, guys didn't turning this car around, and they're like, no. Actually, you know what?
The parents had bets on what city they could make it to before turning around.
If you really need that to sink in, you need to get all the way to the park, because you got to have that right in front of their faces and then turn it around. because you know what I mean.
It's
Because if you're turning around in like DC, they're like, yeah, so what? But if you're turning around like right in front and they can see Cinderella's castle, you're really ripping the rug out there.
it's a gambit. It's a gambit for sure. Not the one that just
The
died
Queen's
in our
Gambit.
cartoon, but it's the like you have to bet. You're betting then on the idea that the majesty of the parks won't overtake these children and make them go, oh, look at that. You know, that you have to switch tack. Like, hey, no awe from the back seat. If you're awed, we're turning this thing right back around.
I love it.
Better to hit when the lightning strikes. That's what my grandpappy said.
Yeah. Freddie Airmail says, "You guys have friends? I know it's shocking.
Friend,
Besides the
duh.
two of us, friend. It's the same friend we're talking about. Yeah, this is my one friend. I can't point at you. I can't like they're like the reverse. This is very weird.
Trained puppeteers who can't make heads or tails.
I know, but like I'm like this I can do, but I can't point. Here we go. I got it. There we go. Holy cow, that was some compelling
5 minutes of the broadcast
I know.
time with that.
I know. Welcome to Fan Controlled Fandom. What are you watching here? It's not just two dudes talking about hardcore parenting flexes. We're talking about the cape space. We're talking all superheroes and space Guga and people fighting dragons. And we keep teasing that we might talk about something else, but we keep just rolling along with the Bad Batch and X-Men 97 because, especially in the case of X-Men 97, I mean, holy cow, this show just like absolutely rocks. It's absolutely wonderful stuff happening. But before we talk about the animated Guga, we got to talk about the quick pieces of nerd news, and we have to absolutely assault your ears with this stinger. Here it comes. Quick hits.
Ooh.
I don't know. You would think like a year and a half into this, I'd get tired of that, but no.
No, absolutely not. It is still, it is more impactful today than it was the first time you sent it to me. It's incredible.
I love that you're saying those things. So, you know, there's really only one, like, I mean, there's some smaller stuff that we're going to touch on, but the biggest thing that happened in fandom this week is they're calling this the first full trailer. What I guess we got before for the Super Bowl was a teaser, even though it's like 2.5 minutes. But I think this is really, we can call this the first full trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, because we got a lot of Wolverine in this. And I got to tell you, as I know you are a self-proclaimed kind of, you know, grew up a Warner Brothers DC house, but I know you're an X-Men guy. I know you're a Wolverine guy. Like, how did it feel seeing like a real full proper Wolverine? Because not just costume, but because they were making the other movies PG and PG-13, he had to like kind of curb his vocabulary. But because he's in a Deadpool movie, we are getting Logan. Like, they make it very clear that Logan is going to say the F word in this movie.
You were saying a couple of times this was the first full trailer, and there's another word that starts with F and U that could also be applied to this trailer, because they say it 90 times, and I usually don't have a problem with that, but on the big broadcast, Granddaddy Twitch told us we can't do it. So
I wish we could just.
I would love nothing more than to just peel off a couple of MFers right now, just to MF and do it. But I felt really good seeing both faces of that Wolverine costume. It made me even more excited to see the mask. You know, that is, I think amongst like unique comic book sort of iconography things that really emblematize a character. The Wolverine mask is one of the few that is like, how is that going to be on screen? That was the reason that all those X-Men costumes were just full black leather. They were not going to be able to do Wolverine's costume at all. So like, draw everything back. So to see that in full motion, that's what I'm really pumped for. But him coming around the corner with the sleeves of the costume blown off and everything.
Yeah, we can break down some of the stuff that we saw, but I just want to hang on Wolverine for a second. Like, and again, I think it just goes without saying that you need to watch Eric Voss's breakdown of this trailer. It's just absolutely next level. And especially in terms of like all the little stuff that he found in this trailer, we are going like this is not like how it was like the multiverse of madness where it's like I don't know who we're getting everyone's in this movie. Like every possible
Yeah.
if you played an X-Men in a Fox movie, you are in this movie, with the exception of Vinnie Jones because he said he's not in this movie, but who the hell knows, he might be in the movie. But I think the thing that really like, obviously the Logan who is in all the Fox movies is dead. So this isn't the same Logan. And I think they've gone to great lengths. And I think we actually have more than one. I think we have the guy in the bar is one. I think the guy who he's fighting, I think the guy in the bar is one. I think maybe even the guy who's in front of all the headstones is maybe the same one in the bar or a different one. And then the guy in the suit is either a third or a second one. But the guy in the suit, specifically because they're doing like the traditional suit, the X-Men 97 kind of look, he specifically, Hugh Jackman, he's never been this big as Wolverine. But that is very, very comics accurate in terms of like the musculature in that outfit. It's very clearly like, hey, guess what? Here's your 2 tickets. I'm going to stamp you in. We're going to the gun show.
Absolutely. And also while we're there, you might want to watch out if you've got any sort of fears or anxieties around reptiles, because the pythons are out.
I mean, just out. I mean, it just wants to eat. They just want to eat,
he's
baby.
Serving, he's eating. Let him cook all the food stuff. It's happening. I think there was that initial sort of buzz. They couldn't keep contained that one cameo laden scene from Multiverse of Madness, right? Professor X, Mr. Fantastic, like all of the effort around that to make that happen. You couldn't have kept that a secret. So as that starts to like leak out, I think it makes people assume that's the whole movie. Really, it was just kind of one concentrated scene. On the other hand, this feels like it's going to be the whole movie.
I mean, it really feels so like, all right, so we can start breaking down some of the stuff that we saw in this trailer. That is, I mean, the Deadpool stuff is the Deadpool stuff. We'll talk about that like kind of towards the end. But there is, I think, some of the more shocking stuff to me. I think by far the most like unbelievable thing that I saw is a giant Scott. I don't know if it's Scott Lang or Hank Pym. There is a giant Ant-Man corpse.
Yes.
That is where the head opens, like the helmet opens. And this is like, there is a skull. You can actually see like teeth and a nose. And what Eric Voss did, if you watched his breakdown, is you pause that, and there's all these people down at the bottom there, and they are all just people from X-Men movies. And they are all like real Gugai characters who are only in it like briefly. These are like
it's not Storm Pyro and Magneto.
Yeah,
it's Azazel.
But it's like these are all people from the movies. Like it is, and there's like 7 of them, and this is like we're getting in like a flash. So it's like imagine what we're actually going to be getting throughout the damn thing. But
also go to your Wolverine, multiple Wolverine theory as well. I think that Wolverine's dead in his timeline in 2029. If you grab him before that, he's not dead. But they're also, and I don't know if EA Voss brought this up, but there could be a Logan, James Howlett, whatever, that already exists in the MCU that was already there the whole time, and maybe
it's in She-Hulk, right? There was
Man with Metal Claws gets in bar fight, yeah.
Yes, so
that could be explicitly an indication of him. They usually like to kind of go back and tie those things up. I feel like, like making the kid in Iron Man 3 Peter Parker or whatever that was. But
no, he's not Peter Parker. What are you talking about?
Isn't he?
No,
didn't they retcon it so that?
No, I just read. I'm still reading the MCU book, which is just an absolutely spectacular book. He's just the kid. Like the implication, because he's there at the funeral during at Tony Stark's spoiler alert. So the implication there is. Oh, you're talking about the kid from like. I'm talking about the kid who he ends up with in Iron Man 3, where he's like in the barn or whatever with the kid.
That kid winds up at the barn, but there's a kid at Stark Expo in 2.
You're right. That is
Peter Parker.
That's right. I'm sorry. I was getting confused. Yes, that kid they've retconned to be Tom Holland.
So the idea that that could be the Metal Claw Man and bar fight headline, because it's so spare, could be like the Captain America shield in Iron Man 1. That it's
Mm-hmm.
there, but it doesn't. It's there to indicate an interconnectedness, but not explicitly. It isn't a piece of lore, if that makes sense. But that
Yeah.
Logan could be out there just as a guy in secret, living in the woods because he doesn't understand his powers, doesn't want people to know, whatever, and that Deadpool has to find that guy and integrate him with the world-saving guy.
Well, there's like a lot of rumors going around that this movie is going to introduce this idea of anchor points. Have you heard of this? What it is that basically like if you remove this person from this timeline, they're like an anchor point. The whole timeline will collapse. So, I mean, there's talk of like, well, he has to get this Logan and bring this Logan in, but I think there's going to be a series of like wrong Logans because Matthew McFadyen, which again, I mean, what a pull. I mean, he's such a wonderful actor. And there's that scene of him, he's got his nose broke. I'm assuming he got a headbutt from somebody. But he says this Wolverine like let down his entire world. So there could be this kind of like thing where Deadpool has to go and get a Wolverine because Wolverine is some sort of anchor point and he keeps grabbing the wrong one, or something like that.
Yeah.
But eventually the bad guy that we're going to get, or bad person we're going to get, which you've mentioned, it's Cassandra Nova, right?
Yeah.
And it's confirmed. This is Emma Corwin from, she was Princess Diana in seasons 3 and 4 of The Crown. She's a wonderful actor. I feel like they're a they, but we'll just call her Emma for the time being. Cassandra Nova is canonically Charles Xavier's like twin that they fight in the womb. Is that correct? Can you put that up a little bit?
This is, in a really wonderfully depicted sequence by, I think, Frank Quitely. It turns out that Cassandra Nova is this twin that Charles Xavier fought psychically in the womb and somehow defeated her. I don't know how she winds up later in, I think, the title Astonishing X-Men, showing up. No, maybe it's maybe it's John Cassidy that drew it. Anyway, she's like this big super ultra villain once they've kind of run out of Magnetos and stuff, that she's Professor X's she's a flip side of his coin, all his power, none of his ethics. And so she's the one that perpetrates the attack on Genosha in the comics,
which we've seen, which we've in the cartoon. Which we will get to. Fan-controlled psychic womb combat. Yes, I would love to see
that's
some
next,
fan-controlled.
And Marshawn Lynch will own a team in that league. He will be
the Beast. Mode. Let's go, Beast. I'm a Beast. I'm an original. I'm an OG Beast. OG Beast. That just sounds like that's my rap name. OG Beast. Oh my God. Thank you. I'm trying to think what else we got that's worth. I mean, there's a lot worth mentioning in this trailer. So the other thing that I think that we're also getting that they kind of briefly teased. So I think if you're in a Fox, I think if you're just in a Fox Marvel movie, period, the probability of you being, because we know that Elektra is in this movie, that Jennifer Garner is the only person they've dangled. So at this point, I gotta figure like Ben Affleck's in it as Daredevil, which would just be some next level stuff.
They actually reached out to me because they saw that I went to the original movie in 1999, and they're trying to get people that were in the audiences to appear in the movie as well. They're just getting everybody.
I got that call too. I was in the X-Men movie, the first one I saw in the theater. By the way, I had I made out with my ex-girlfriend during X-Men, the first one. Anywho, and I was like, it was this weird thing where it was like,
after that they had to call it the Sex Men.
Heyo, but it was one of these weird things where it was like, I'm really enjoying making out, but I also like, I kind of really want to watch this movie. So
yeah, seriously, like one eye opens and just creeps over to the screen.
This is like, and this was back in the day when we got like a comic book movie every 7 years. So it was like, I really just want to watch this one over here, but I'm also very much enjoying what we're doing. But so not only is that going to happen, but Eric, I watched the trailer a few times myself, and then Eric Voss pointed this out, and I was like, oh, well, yeah, duh. At the very end of the trailer, before you get the tag, the little thing at the end, which we'll talk about in a second. There's this, they jump into very much a Doctor Strange portal. It's got to be either Doctor Strange or it's Wong, or I don't know, maybe it's Ned from Spider-Man,
Well,
but I doubt
anybody
they would
from
have.
Comertage with a sling ring can make one of those portals.
Yeah, of course, but like it's either Benny Cumbies or Wong. But the thing is, if you notice that the other side of the portal is white, so Eric Voss pointed out that they were like, well, there's no there when you every time we've seen a portal in the MCU, you can see something on the other end. There isn't just white. So there's definitely something that they are jumping into. Most likely, either we could see them in the battle against Thanos at the end. We could see them jump in to anything. They could just be jumping around MCU movies at this point, which means like there's rumors that Chris Evans is going to be in this movie as Johnny Fire and Captain America.
Love it. I love it.
Which I'm just like, do it. Like, we've mentioned this so many times about this movie. Like, as much as we are, and we'll talk about the little thing at the end, as much as there are things about Deadpool character-wise that can run a little thin with you and I, there really isn't any other character in Marvel that you can do this with, where you can just break all the rules, break the fourth wall, and just do whatever you want. And this is really the guy. And I think it seems more and more like they are just absolutely using this as a way to get all of the X-Men into the proper MCU timeline. Because if they didn't exist already, then why weren't they there fighting Thanos? So, and
Right.
maybe they literally go there and jump into the portal to fight Thanos to be like, see, there's no X-Men here. Or so, I don't know. But like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
If I can kind of get expansive a little bit,
Please. I think we're just going to talk about this, but whatever. Go ahead.
we were just talking about how they had to like redo the X-Men costumes for that first movie because the common wisdom at the time, probably correct, is those costumes don't really translate to the screen. There's been all these like compromises and things, allowances that have had to be made in comic books transition to big screen properties. Things that the audience won't tolerate. But now, after all this time, they're really leaning into it. The costumes, the fact that characters will break the fourth wall and talk to the audience. I mean, Deadpool is an enormous franchise, and it starts with making it comic book accurate. He is right in there being silly, doing his thing, acknowledging the audience. And as comic books too have in our world gotten a little more meta, a little more inward looking. I mean, I think I brought it up before, but a couple years ago, the big DC crossover Doomsday Clock posited that Superman is the focal point of the DC universe, and that as he goes and transitions, us as the readers following that, the entire universe or comic line will shift around him because he's that important to us as consumers, to the universe as a being, whatever. And they're trying to like kind of integrate this into how they're doing these comic book movies now. And I think it's just that much more encouraging that they really have created a marketplace where being more and more silly and comic accurate and really going for it is not only tolerated, but like wanted. X-Men 97 is silly as hell and people are eating it up because it's great.
Gobbling, just like gobbling it up. That's a great point. Like it's a different environment, and it's just, I don't know if it's everything. It's the fact that the MCU took some hits last year, both critically and financially. The fact that they are like, this is the only thing that we're getting this year in the box office from. Now, next year, they're opening the floodgates back up. We're going to get Thunderbolts and Captain America, Brave New World. And there's something else coming next year too, like Fantastic Four. I think, yes, Fantastic Four is coming. There's all these things. We're opening it back up, but like, because we are using it all to just go absolutely bonkers this year, it's pretty great. Now, two things, and then we'll try to get one more piece of news. So I will say the one thing that the fact that this, especially we're on the Fan Controlled Sports Entertainment Network, this trailer ends with the letters LFG.
Yeah.
At one point, Deadpool says it, like the full acronym, but then when it cuts to Hugh Jackman as Wolverine saying it in that like Wolverine growl, dude, that's like my new hype music. I could just watch him say LFG like to get me up out of bed in the morning. It is just like hell mother effing yeah. It's so awesome.
Yeah. My
That was the
wife
only part
says
where
I
I was
can't watch the trailer anymore after 6 o'clock at night because I'll have trouble sleeping. That's how much pumped up I get.
it's I mean, it is so childish and it is so dumb, but it is something about it where it's just like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
great. Like it's like I kind of said in the beginning, like this is the Wolverine that has been in the comics forever. And we've gotten like Hugh Jackman. I mean, my wife last night was talking, she has some friends who she let her kids start watching X-Men 97 because she watched the X-Men show in the 90s. And she's like, oh, this show is like scaring the S out of my kids. And I'm like, yeah, because they made it in the 90s and it's a literal like picking up where it left off, but as if it were for people who watched this in the 90s. So it's very, it's intense. But I guess her kids said, why is Scott Summers so lame? And I was like, Cyclops, I was like, I don't know. Look, here's the thing. Like, there's a reason why Hugh Jackman is the one character that they just keep bringing along and keep making movies. There's a reason why James Marsden didn't, as much as a wonderful performer and actor as he is, as you know, you were in the Emmy-nominated television show Jury Duty with him. There's something like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is just iconic. And then to take that iconography and have him say LFG, like right into the camera with that Logan Grizzle, I just was like, here's $5,000. I want to watch this movie right now.
Yeah, give it to me now, please. This is the one movie I think that we should really start to make a push to try and get press credentials for. Like we need to get in early point on this one.
2 months out. Well, I think we have enough of we have to show that we have like a viewership and all that. I think we can get some numbers out, and I think we could definitely try to get that. Yes, so that and then the whole trailer ends with just saying LFG, which I'm like, great. Now, let's talk about the very end of the trailer, which is if they would have ended the trailer just with Wolverine saying let's effing go and just been like July 26th, I would have been like perfect. But we end on the thing that you and I both kind of like lament but have to kind of deal with this character is, I mean, I've said this before, Ryan Reynolds, he's a absolutely wonderful, charismatic, watchable, like incredible performer, great actor, great comedic timing, all the things. He's clearly somebody that if you let him go a little bit too much, he goes into these like goofy places that it's like, okay, you're just saying a bunch of nasty stuff together, hoping that it's funny. And that's kind of what we ended with. Basically, like, I mean, the only thing that was kind of funny about it that I thought was that the blind woman asked him if he wants to do some cocaine. And he says that was the one thing Feige said was off limits. I thought that was pretty funny. And then they just go through a bunch of like goofy names for doing coke, and I'm just like, okay, I get it. I understand why this is here. This is here to let you know that this is a rated R movie. But you've already said the F.
These are nasty people.
Yeah, you've already said the F word like 50 times. I get it. We didn't need this at the end to like tease us, but I guess they had to put it there. I guess.
And it's also, to me, there's an implied sort of cleverness that the writer thinks they're accomplishing with that sort of thing, to me anyway, because like also none of those things, it would have been interesting if they'd at least come up with like novel or new slang for coke, but it was all, yeah, I guess that is another euphemism for, there's another, you just
white
said
girl,
another.
white girl interrupted. Well, I mean, the only one that I thought was really kind of like applicable to this being part of Disney now and Feige was, do you want to build a snowman? I thought that was like the only one that I was like, okay, I'll give you that. But that's Frozen,
the scenic route to get to that punchline isn't worth it.
That's true. Yeah.
And I agree with you though that that's the hard line for Feige. The joke needs to then go, that guy, what are the other things that he does that he's not letting you talk about or whatever, rather than drilling down into how unclever we can be about cocaine euphemisms. Like it's too
Well, we have
there's
to
so
remember
much
that
of it
this
that's like performative bad boyism to me. That's like, it's like we're not like, you're already not my granddad's superhero. You don't need to keep not being my granddad's superhero. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, this is just going to be an inevitability with this film. Especially, we have to
Yeah.
remember that this movie was able to keep shooting during the writer's strike because Ryan Reynolds is one of the co-writers of the script. Ryan Reynolds, Sean Levy, and Rhett Reese are the credited writers, and Sean Levy, let's say Levy. Sean Levy is the director and writer, and Ryan Reynolds is the actor and the writer. So they were able to keep shooting this movie during the strike because Ryan Reynolds could just do all the alts. So, and Sean Levy could do all the alts. So we're getting more of Ryan. There's probably going to be more Ryan Reynolds improv in this than if Rhett Reese was there. But I don't know. We'll
Could
just have
we
to see.
have
It's kind
all
of
the
inevitability.
Could we have all the Deadpool fanboys and all the Joker fanboys like fight each other in the middle of the
Oh,
Australian outback or something?
I would absolutely pay-per-view for that. A couple of Freddie Airmail stuff we got here. Huge Ackman, great. More like Cyflops, am I right? And then Scott
Ugh.
Bummers is pretty great. Scott Bummers is pretty great.
Scott
All right,
Bummers
I
is
know
pretty
we're
great, but it's not his fault, and he's a good, cool character.
He is a cool character. I just want to hit on one thing, one more quick hit, real quickly. This is a full-blown rumor that I saw in a couple of different places on the internet, basically saying that Marvel has figured out what they're doing with Avengers 5. Like, this was originally called the Kang Dynasty. Jonathan Majors had all of his issues and is deservedly in trouble. And
more like Jonathan Major Bummers. See,
right?
I hate that guy.
Yeah, so they're apparently, this is all just conjecture. They have figured out the direction for Avengers 5. It was originally going to be Thor 5 was going to kind of secretly be shooting. That might still happen, which would then lead into Avengers 5. There's going to feature a smaller team. There is going to be no Fantastic Four in this one, but they will be in Secret Wars. And this one will contain a lot of the newer characters that we have seen in event that it's good. This is all rumor, but this could potentially start shooting next year, which means there might be announcements. There'll probably be announcements on this either at Comic-Con or at D23, both of which are happening in the next couple of months. So there's something there.
You know, with like our knowledge now that the Fantastic Four is at least somewhat taking place in an alternate reality, and the X-Men coming and going from an alternate reality, possibly, it makes me think that, the MCU, as it's come to this point, before multiverse stuff got introduced, the MCU, it felt like to me, was you come in there with Iron Man, who's a new hero. Then you start to get the idea that there were heroes all along in this world, that they were drilling down. Like, hey, Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne were operating in the 60s as costume heroes, whatever. That you have, like, where would the Fantastic Four fit into that? If they had been there the whole time, or they're a brand new team, they can't then kind of espouse the spirit of the comic book that we're so used to. But if they come from an alternate reality where they're already the Fantastic Four, they're already that super team, bright, shiny, smiley, then they get shifted over to modern 616 reality. There's now a fish out of water potential. It's not this team trying to become something. They're already established as the Fantastic Four. Same with the X-Men. They don't have to have been there the whole time. They're an intact thing shifted over. And you can even have hey, there's mutants among us now. What does that mean for the broader 616 Earth?
Yeah, I think it says, I mean, if Fantastic Four are indeed not in Avengers 5, I think what it does say is that at the end of the Fantastic Four movie, they're not going to fully be in the 616 universe yet. They might be like
it'll probably be
transport like, post-credit scene or something. What?
It'll probably be like Captain America: First Avenger, where he's in the modern era in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, but if you bring them into the modern era before the Avengers movie comes out, then why are they not in the Avengers movie? That's what I'm saying. Anywho,
the thing is, we tend to look at the Avengers in the MCU. Avengers movies are culminations, but in comic books, Avengers is happening every month.
All the time. You got all the West Coast Avengers. There's the Great Lakes
Great Lakes
Avengers,
Avengers.
which is, I mean, I love that. To me, that is my jam. Like, I want to talk about the, like, who is the HR person who works at Avengers headquarters? I want their story. Who is the guy who's like a thank you, person. Who is the person who's like a contract operations, and like legal, like or
facilities
just like
manager,
asset manager. I got to keep track of all the different costumes and all the video. Yeah. Oh, that's what I want, because it exists. It has to exist. You know what? So that was our quick hits. That was a long quick hit. We only talked about one thing, but it was great. This is the Fan Control Sports Entertainment Network. We are on the Twitch. We are always rocking and rolling on Twitter. There are currently 152 people watching this on Twitter right now, which God bless you for being on that platform. But we're giving you an entertainment. This is now one piece of sports news from Alex and I. Alex, I know you're in Indianapolis, but they do a different kind of racing there in Indianapolis. You're going to take us to open wheel racing, right?
Well, the Indianapolis is still open wheel racing. Thank you very much. But it's not Formula One racing, which is what we're going to talk about. By the way, crucially on Twitter, out of 150 of those viewers, only 200 of them are bots. But here we've got a couple of big news items from the Formula One world. First among them, Adrian Newey, tech guru and Formula One car design master, seeming to have told Red Bull he's leaving the team. This seems to be linked to some of the controversy that has surrounded Christian Horner, the team principal, lately. Friction between the Thai headquarters, who they back, and the European headquarters and who they back. There's a lot of friction. So where Adrian Newey winds up, if he indeed stays in racing, is now a bigger question than where any of the current drivers would wind up. Where Adrian Newey is going is just about as big a move as where Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world champion, moved to in this offseason. And the second and less prominent news, but driver Nico Hülkenberg has announced he will be driving for Sauber starting in 2025 as they transition to becoming the Audi works team starting in 2026. So a lot of movement here, even in advance of what is typically the silly season. Just more to come. So back to you, Kenny.
I love the silly season. My news, I definitely don't want to talk about the Lakers or I'll start crying.
Sorry,
I mean,
man.
Tuesday night was I'm a level-headed fan. I'm very much like, I'm not one of these people. I don't watch a lot of things live because I don't want to submit my family to just like, don't talk to me, I'm watching sports. But so I watched that game on Tuesday, and when Jamal Murray hit that shot, here I am talking about it. I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about Arsenal. Arsenal right now is currently at the top of the table in the Premier League. And this week, Alex, we have not one but 2 London derbies. We played Chelsea on Tuesday, and Alex, we beat them 5-0 to stay on top of the table. Yes, Man City is 1 point behind us. And then on Sunday, we have the proper North London derby, which is Arsenal Spurs, which I'm very much excited. As long as Arsenal, I believe if they win, there's a goal differential. They have the goal differential. They need to win, I think, at like 4 out of their last 5 games, and they could win the Premier League, which even saying that out loud is just absolute nonsense. But I also want to call out fan-controlled racing this past weekend. We talked about it last week. The fan-controlled racing car jumped 27 spots after starting dead last, and it finished 11th at the Talladega Super Speedway. That is super impressive. And
it's
this
huge.
is fans voted on, the color of the car, the type of car, who's driving the car. You get to vote on all kinds of things during the course of the game, and they finished 11th. That's fantastic for fan-controlled racing. Freddie Emerald says you could talk about how the Arena Football League might be on the verge of collapsing. I know this, but which one, Freddie? Because the Arena Football League just announced it was coming back, like the original one. I know there's the National Arena League and there's the Indoor Football League. The Indoor Football League has lasted for quite some time. The National Arena League is a little up and down, but the actual proper Arena Football League just announced like a month ago they were coming back. So they've already crashed and burned in a month. God bless them.
Which one has a team owned by Kiss?
Not anymore, but that was in the proper arena football league. The LA Kid, that was this is like typical like LA California BS. They were called the Los Angeles Kiss. And you know where their arena? You know which arena they played in?
Probably Irvine.
Yeah, the Honda Center in Anaheim. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, it's like they were right across the parking lot from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
The LA Angels of Anaheim. Thanks, Artie Moreno. Alex, I know that you're out there in Indianapolis. And were you able to get us a corporate sponsor while you're doing your remote this week, or what's the deal?
Luckily, yeah. So the NFL isn't occupying these spaces, but the Association of KFC Affiliates and Entrepreneurs is. So their annual affiliate conference and convention is here, taking over the entire downtown area, and they've hired us. They've done some corporate underwriting with us to announce some of the events and panels you can go to as a franchisee. So we've got What's Cooking, which is see what we're developing for 2025 and beyond. That's in room 2E at the convention center. They also have a conference in the Sequoia Hall, which is the latest in sustainable napkins and flatware, which is great, recyclable. And then each day you want to make sure you're at the stadium, because at the 50-yard line of the stadium, they have a special fireside with the Colonel. He'll dispense his business secrets and the dread power that grants him eternal life. So that's some of the events you can expect at the KFC Association of Franchisees here in Indianapolis. So we're really all over the whole downtown area.
I love it. I love it. Taking over Indianapolis. Wow. That's
and maybe soon the world.
Stuff.
I don't know. The Colonel has plans, so we'll just see.
He never goes away, that Colonel.
No,
all right,
he is immortal
40,
and dreadful.
Just a solid 42 minutes in, and we're about ready to start talking about our main topic, which is another bad batch of X-Men. We're still talking about X-Men 97 and Bad Batch because these shows just keep bringing the heat, especially X-Men 97. Bad Batch was still a little table setty this week, but we got some stuff.
And I think too, before we dive in, I think that getting both of these shows that are so great in such different ways, such different approaches. I mean, just one, I don't know how digital the stream, the pipeline of production is for X-Men 97, but it is hand-drawn seeming versus the very computer-generated look of Clone Wars. They very, very, very different approaches when I feel like the Cape Space used to be pretty homogenous. And these are very, very, this is a great pairing of shows together I feel like it's Saturday morning cartoons again. Wednesday, I'm up. I got an hour before the shrink. Boom.
Cartoons for your brain. I definitely think that even though X-Men 97 looks drawn, it has to be done digitally. I don't feel like people are hand drawing anything anymore.
Well, I
it's
think
AI. It's all AI.
They still are drawing in the computer interface rather than using rigs to Clone Wars. They develop animated rigs that they manipulate in the space. It's almost like digital puppeteering, whereas hand drawn, you're still using a stylus and still drawing something, but each frame is rendered as an individual drawing.
There we go.
It's not cell animation.
There we go. I love it. X-Men 97, Bright Eyes, episode 7.
God.
You all right?
Too much nerd stuff come out of me at one time. My wife is sexy, so I have this allergic reaction anytime I see too much nerd stuff.
It's tough. We're frankly heroes for the work for doing this every week. Episode 7. Yeah, episode 7, Bright Eyes, directed by Emmett Yonemura, written by Charlie Feldman and J.B. Ballard. As the X-Men hold a funeral for Gambit, Rogue angrily searches for Gyrich. How is it pronounced? That's right, Gyrich and Trask. After gaining information from General Thunderbolt Ross, voiced by good friend Mike McGill, and Captain Friggin' America, Rogue finds Gyrich in Mexico and absorbs his memories. Gyrich is killed later that night by a mysterious man who is working with Mr. Sinister. While assisting in the recovery efforts at Genosha, the X-Men are contacted by Trask, who tells them that he is in Madripoor. They get Rogue on the way. Roberto and Jubilee visit Roberto's mother and tell her that he is a mutant. She asks him to keep his identity a secret. In Madripoor, the X-Men learn that the sinister and mysterious OZT organization had been developing a highly advanced Sentinel program. Rogue drops Trask to his death, unknowingly activating... God, I forgot this happened. What's such an awesome show.
I know, right?
Rogue drops, unknowingly activating programming that turns him into a human Sentinel hybrid. Cable arrives, defeats Trask, and explains that Sinister is working with a greater threat that they must stop. The threat is Bastion, who reveals to Sinister that Xavier is alive in space and that Magneto, presumed dead in the Genosha attack, is alive and is Bastion's prisoner. Alex, what'd you think of the episode?
Woo-hoo! Boy, oh boy. I have a lot to say. So good. It's so like we've said before, so perfectly entrenched in the look and feel of the original series, and also like a comic book, that the idea that Captain America shows up and it's not the beginning of a 3-episode arc team up thing. It's just Tuesday. They came, they saw, they went. There's a great interaction. But that's how comic books are. You know, you do sometimes get a little drop in from another hero who just come to say, like, whenever Starman went to Gotham, he talked to Batman for 3 frames, then take off. Like, just sort of the idea of continuing to build how interconnected the universe is. And crucially, too, I think on purpose, the voice actor for this Captain America is the same who's playing Steve Rogers in What If, who is a canonical multiverse Steve Rogers. So I feel like that choice, and he's not doing that same voice. He's not doing Chris
he's
Evans.
Not.
He's doing a completely different performance, but it's the same actor. So, you know, I think that's further proof that they're going to try and really gather stuff around this. It's not going to be a cartoon, you know, in the same way that What If is animated, but it reflects real things that are happening in lore in the MCU.
100%. I think as we get, you know, with all the costumes we were talking about in Deadpool, Wolverine, I mean, it's very clearly that Hugh Jackman is going to at some point in that movie look like Logan from X-Men 97. Like,
and I will say this too, that like what made me a writer, ultimately, somebody who can command words, my style of performing, how I absorb the world around me is really informed by my early reading of comic books, where these really, really smart guys weren't pulling punches. We're using big words. We're addressing big ideas in we can call it a silly way, but it opened my mind and my eyes to a lot of different things that I wanted to investigate in more traditional books or more traditional kind of academic venues. And I think that this show is doing the same thing. The writing of the dialogue on these shows is something else. You know, Magneto 2 episodes ago saying we won't live knowing we could have done more. Like these kinds of like really, the writing, the dialogue is so well thought out. And then you get to these points of like, you know, Sunspot telling his mom that he's a mutant, and that interaction is so gay coded. It's so,
oh my God, it's 100%.
I thought she was going to say, "Oh, thank God, I thought you were going to say you were gay," or something like that.
No, I love that she was.
But we can't. But you have to hide it.
No,
it's like
if you didn't like. First of all, if you're one of these chodes who is watching that and doesn't understand that, the fact that they can use this idea of mutants, the characters that you're attached to try to put you in the shoes of what it's like for someone to have to come out to their parents. And the fact that the mom was like, I knew the whole time, like, I was like, they really nailed it. That was really, really awesome. Because then when she had that turn and was like, well, we got to keep it quiet. Like, that is like, there are probably thousands upon thousands of people who've come out, queer people who've come out to their parents and have gotten like serious, like the same kinds of reactions, but they're doing this in the context of Jubilee, who is just always like, just dressed like an like if you were to see, even in the 90s, if you were to see somebody dressed as Jubilee in real life walking around the street, you would be, that person has lost it. That person is not, that person is is having a mental health crisis right now.
You would say,
But
somebody help her, please. Somebody help that
yes,
poor woman.
and then yes, the guy whose name is Sunspot is his character when he eventually becomes a full-blown mutant. Like to take all of that and use that as this very, very clear allegory of somebody coming out to their parents, I just found that to be just wonderful. Like
Yep.
I'm not somebody who's queer. I've not had to be in these shoes of had to do something like this, but I've had plenty of friends who have had to come out to their parents to differing results. But to put this in a animated superhero show on Disney Plus is like, it's great. And then there's Rogue basically telling Captain America that he's not an ally. Like, like all cops are bad, a cab, that like very much, she basically says that to him. But that's like something that is, I mean, think about it, that in like any sort of civil rights movement, in any sort of feminist movement, any queer movement, anything. Like there are people who are supportive when there's no cameras on or when they're in the confines of their own house. But when it comes, like, true allyship is being able to support someone outwardly and publicly and be able to have that person's back in spaces where they are not accepted. And the fact that Captain America is basically a cuck, and it's like, I mean, that's like some next level stuff.
To back up my guy a little bit, he is right that in the Stars and Stripes, his presence means something, so he has to go by the book.
But that I love that. But yes.
But he is that, and I think when you were talking about allyship, it put something in my head that they actually address later in the episode, that like there's also that thread of allyship that's like, yeah, no, Black Lives Matter, but I just wish they wouldn't break windows. Like that.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally.
Literally
yes.
comes up later, and it's like, and I love that Beast, who was the last bastion, of sort of that reasonability, goes, well, I'm glad we did all that work to gain your tolerance. Like, the idea that your anger has to fit in a certain cup is very pertinent to today.
It's very much like at the end, there's the when he's talking to the reporter, that Beast is the how a lot of times people, especially in regards to a lot of people of color, is, oh, you're so eloquent, or, oh, I'll talk to you because you're able to talk so nicely.
You're
well spoken. Like and basically Beast at the end is like, yeah, thanks for that. Like, you're exactly right. Like the show is so, we keep saying this, it is so coded, it is doing so much, and then at the same time it's just total nonsense. Like total not like Mr. Sinister as a character. I mean, Mr. Sinister's whole outfit is just bonkers. Like just like half capes coming out of him that's like pointed up. I mean, just ridiculous. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I was trying to cut you off. Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't want to delve too much into anything that is going on in the world, very, very much. But
sure,
this week you have, that the riot is the language of the unheard. The importance of protest making you uncomfortable. All these things are important. We've got a lot of action that's happening against protesters for the last several years at increasing intensity and violence. And it's gotten to the point now where in the last week or two, you have a sitting U.S. senator advocating for violence against peaceful protesters, that, taking matters into your own hands, vigilantism, violence to people that are not committing violence. So I think that in this, given that, that this show is using its time to put forth this message of, listen, don't tense up. I think it's very, very important. And it's just one more of the ways in which the X-Men are kind of in this incarnation showing up at the right time, just like they did in the 60s during civil rights. And I'm not saying that they're going to be the fix, but it really does come down sometimes to the changing of one mind. And if this is
Yeah.
the language in which it has to be done, whatever. But Bo DeMeo and that creative team clearly have experiences that are lived and theirs that they are articulating to the rest of us who don't share it in a common space to try and come up with that commonality. And I think that this is maybe one of the most successful attempts at that I've seen in this space.
I can't think of, I mean, there's obviously a lot of allegories and a lot of science fiction. A lot of fandom stuff is allegories to everything. I mean, Star Wars is allegories to fascism, and it's all there. But yes, this is one of the most successful iterations of all of this that I've seen in a while. And it's again, it's this silly little show where like there are so many silly things. I mean, I don't know anything about this Bastion character. Can you give me some context for who is this person who seems to be behind? Like, we thought Mr. Sinister was behind the Sentinel attack, but then Mr. Sinister, no, Trask, which, by the way, isn't his name like Tolliver? Or what is it?
Bolivar. It looks like Bolivar.
But like they say Bolivar. The fact that his name is Oliver with a B, Bolivar, is just absolutely hysterical. But Bolivar Trask says, "Oh no, it's not Mr. Cinder. There's somebody else." And I thought they were gonna be, "Oh my God, is Cassandra Nova gonna show up in this thing? And is she gonna be voiced by Emma Corwin? And we're just gonna link it all up here?" But no, it's someone named Bastion. Can you give me some context for who this person is?
I mean, I don't know much more than what Eric Voss said on the New Rockstars breakdown because this was from a part of the continuity I wasn't very much in touch with. But he's like human nano advanced robot stuff from deep, deep, deep in the X-Men's future where Sentinels have progressed along a line where they're like more biological than these giant sort of towering, very recognizable robots. And that like Bastion is sort of representative of where bigotry has evolved to in like 1,000 years. I think of the various like I can't remember whose timeline he's from because there's like I think X-Men has three main futures. There's like not that will happen, but that have been portrayed. There's the Days of Future Past, and then there's whatever future Cable's from, which is different, and there's whatever future Bishop is from, which is different. And so those are three in comics. Those are three different eventualities that could have happened because of a butterfly in Central Park or whatever. So I don't know which future Bastion comes from, but I think in X-Men they're trying to say in X-Men 97 they're trying to say all of that is one future and it's all being fed back. There's a guy named Cable.
Yeah, because
he has an X, but you don't know why.
Yeah, well, because Bishop took Nathan to the future, and then Cable came from that future. So I think they are just trying to make it one, because they're already going to have to do a lot of pulling from this thing into the Earth 616. There's just a lot of pulling going on.
You're not allowed to say that on Twitch, dude. We told Fan Controlled we wouldn't talk like that on the live stream. How dare you?
On the big broadcast. Another big thing we got at this episode at the end when we saw this Bastion guy is that Magneto is not dead. I don't know if I need to have some sort of like how did he survive thing because it's comics and people survive, but it certainly seemed like he was all the way dead. And I don't know how he lived through that, but it's comics. Who cares, right?
I mean, he is an Omega level mutant with power over magnetism. He could. They figured out a way for him to touch Rogue. Like, yeah, Guga.
touch Rogue. Instead of touch. Why don't you go touch Rogue, you jerk?
Hey, buddy, touch Rogue. Go ahead, go outside and touch Rogue.
You goofball. Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely was like he was. I mean, Gambit is clearly dead, like dead. They put him in the ground. Like very much, and I really appreciated the fact that whoever was giving his eulogy was also from the Bayou and had a little bit of a draw.
Wait, I think it was Nightcrawler was giving the eulogy because he's a
that's
priest.
right.
He was like a little jerk, but the members of the Thieves Guild were there in their trench coats and mullets. Those were like they just I feels like they just pulled the cells over from the original series. Those dudes were very 90s.
It's just some next level. This show, every week I'm always kind of like floored. Like I don't think it's been like ever since like episode 5 when we had the like, and Infinity War level event. Like it hasn't been like as good as that episode. That episode is like some of the most insane stuff we've gotten. But it really feels like we're leading to something, because the next 3 episodes, there's 3 more episodes, and they're basically one large arc. Like if you look at how it's broken down, it's just Tolerance is Extinction, part 1, part 2, part 3. Those are the next 3 episodes. So, I mean, this clearly feels like it's building to, some story. I mean, we have a lot of the lines have already been set. We've got a bad guy, we've got drama, we've got tension, we've got our players, even like Scott and gosh, my brain fog's kicking in. Phoenix is Jean Grey. We got there. Scott and Jean are like finding their way back to each other. As boring as Scott Summers is.
I love Cyclops, man. Cyclops is the best. He's a victim of circumstance. I feel like in my head, Scott was like the first mutant that Charles Xavier hired to be like a superhero student. And so he's like, well, you're going to have to be everything to everyone. And he is. He's great. Scott's great. Constancy is not boring. 0 is 0. It's not negative or positive. It's 0. I think that too, it's very interesting. Eric Voss brought up that there were certain restrictions, even with how many great cameos they squeezed into the original series. There were restrictions around certain characters, like they couldn't call the Hulk when they had him in a cameo. But now that they've established there's a Hulk, the prison that Rogue breaks into was designed to contain it. You don't build something for something that doesn't exist.
It was?
Yeah.
Did Thunderbolt Ross say that? I didn't.
He did? It was designed to contain the Hulk. And then Captain America being there, I'm just looking forward to more of the ways they'll responsibly kind of build out the world that the X-Men live in. These teams that have been the classic underpinning of Marvel have really kind of had their own sections of universe to deal in. Most comic book characters do, but the X-Men has always seemed far larger than your average character, because they'll face these world-ending threats. They'll go to space and do Dark Phoenix, which is like a galactic level thing. And so I just to kind of build it out a little bit more, I'm just excited to see maybe Spider-Man pops up or something. Not that he can.
Why not?
But...
And it's important. Well, I think he can technically, because he was in What If, and I think the reason why can. This isn't technically the same. This is a whole, because Captain America was in this. We know that this isn't the same Earth as the MCU proper, because in the MCU proper, Steve Rogers is awoken in like 2011 or whatever. Because he's in Times Square, and this is 1997, and he's already there. So this is not the same. So we can do whatever we want. But yeah, Thunderbolt, do you know Mike McGill?
I remember Mike. He's great.
Yeah, Mike, I could recognize his voice immediately. Mike's another actor here in LA, although he moved to Las Vegas, but he's still booking work, man. I love it. Yeah, Thunderbolt Ross.
A couple of people. I was at a wedding in October, randomly got sat at a table with like 5 or 6 people who had been in the Sunday Company at the Groundlings in like the 80s.
Wow.
Like, a couple of them had done that. Like
Dax
2 couples
Shepard.
that were at this is Dax Shepard Sr. But 2 of the couples had moved out to Las Vegas, were pursuing work out there and doing stuff out there, but we're still auditioning and booking work here because it's like a 3-hour drive. Most auditions are self-tape anyway. You just and even if you do, I don't know, do you go out in person anymore? I've got like one of those a week. I can handle a 3-hour drive once a week.
I'll tell you what, I had a commercial audition in person this week, and I loathe them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I loathe them. Every single person there is like, oh, it's so great to be back. And I'm like, why? We did this totally fine. I could go on tape, and I got it to you, and we were still making commercials, and nothing broke, and everything was still fine. I loathed them. Because you drive all the way out there, you sit in the room, you gotta do the dance with oh, look who it is, and you gotta be do a bunch of goofy jokes with people, and then you gotta go in the room, and then you gotta drive another hour home, and I'm like, I could have done this in 10 minutes at my house, and done all the same work and had the exact same result, because all you're looking at is a stupid video of me Like, I can send you this. and,
Yeah, I
and
mean,
not,
I booked the aforementioned jury duty off of pure self tape. They never saw me in person
yes.
until I showed
Well,
up on set.
I haven't done a theatrical audition in person yet. I've only theatrical. I'm still doing tape, which I'm
Neither have
just like
I.
great.
But commercially, this is thank you everybody for putting up with this. But
I know
commercially,
this is like absolute like smallest violin playing right now. But go ahead.
but you just want to, hey, like this is a little insight into how the sausage gets into the geisha. But
Yes.
I've been really lucky that I've been going out frequently. A, that's very lucky, but B, to two places that are very. One of them is 200 South La Brea, which is very close to my house. The other one is
Yes.
another place, very like a 10-minute drive away. So like I've been very fortunate that all my in persons have been very close by. But I don't miss Ocean Park.
Oh God, thank God. But yeah, no, it's really the kind of thing. I mean, so this week I had an in person and I actually went in with my wife, and so we had to bring our kid. So that was kind of like fun because it was the two of us. But still, like, we were sitting around waiting and all this crap. And then I had a self tape, and on the self tape I had a good week with the material because it was three full pages of dialogue, and I had the time to like work with it. I like had the lines down. We set the camera up. I did one take, nailed it, and then put it away, sent it off. Like, it took like 5 minutes. Just like this. Why would I ever want to get in my car and do all the dance when I can do this at home and deliver? I just, whatever. Anyway,
I will say
hear
this,
people.
the flip side of that for me is setting up the lights, all the prep. I now have the chance to do it 10 times and not be satisfied. Whereas if I go into the room, get the energy of the people at one shot, and I'm good, and I'm gone, and it's done. I'm out.
Oh, I do, like, I don't know. Either way, I'm not somebody. Every time I go to an in-person audition, everyone's like, "Oh, it's so good to be back," and all that. I'm always like, nah. If I go, here's what I do. This is my trick. If I go by myself without my wife, it's like, it's also too, like, the great thing about. We'll get back to this stuff in a second. The good thing about
very fascinated by this.
Yes, the good thing about it doing the self tapes at home is, I'm working, and so I can like take 15 minutes out of my work day to do the self tape, and then I can go right back to work. But getting in the car means I have to like take off of work to drive. So what I usually do when I go to like an audition by myself, I bring my computer, I bring a mask, I put my mask on, and I just sit in the corner and work, because in that way nobody knows who I am. So they don't have to go through the like, "Oh, is that so and so? What's up, dude?" and like do all the like catch up crap. Which like look, not saying I don't like seeing people, but I'm fully an introvert now, and it exhausts me if I'm like there too long, like shooting the S with people. I feel exhausted after I leave auditions, and so I put a mask on, I sit in the corner, and then they call my name, and someone was like, "Oh, Kenny Stevenson's here. What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, so, my kid has a cold. Sorry." And I just like go in the room and I do the audition and I leave, and it works every time. It's great.
God damn, pardon my French. I'm just so impressed by how perfect. Because you won't say you hate seeing people. I will. I hate seeing people. I have that same exhaustion. I go like,
I feel exhausted. It's like I don't want to, and it's literally, it's not anything they're doing. It's just my actual makeup. I'm an introvert. My body chemistry. I get tired having to be like so on. If I'm not performing, if I'm literally performing, it's different. But if I'm just like talking to people, it's tough. Anyway, let's get back to business.
That was actor chat.
We wasted a lot of time. Now we gotta skip to the Bad Batch here right away. But we'll ask about if it's Star Wars or Star Trek. We'll do it together. But I do think we are heading to something that I'm really kind of excited for, this kind of like 3-episode arc. I think this is going to be very exciting stuff. Now, speaking about something this is almost, we have one more episode of Bad Batch, but we had episode 14. It's called Flash Strike, directed by Nate Villanueva, written by Brad Rao. Hemlock is alerted that the Bad Batch infiltrated the relay station and sends fighters to intercept the incoming vessel. Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, and Rampart, who is not in the Bad Batch, are forced to crash near Tantus Base and continue on foot, hunted by stormtrooper patrols. With the base on high alert, Omega takes advantage of the distraction to scout her planned escape route and finds the Zillow Beast in an underground enclosure. In the jungle, Rampart accidentally awakens a large creature that attacks them. He is separated from the others and gets captured. Echo infiltrates the base and encounters Emery, who tells him about the other children being held with Omega. Alex, thoughts?
Loved it. And this in the same way that Dave Filoni tends to do, and this is the first time he's done it with one of his own creations. I hate the Zillow Beast. I had no problem with the arc, but like the character design seems so outside of everything else in the shows and Star Wars. Like big floppy noodle man. I hated it. This show made me like the Zillow Beast. I was pumped when she was like in the little wall thing and saw him hanging out getting blasted by lasers. So like, well done, Dave Filoni. You've done it again. You big man. It's cool. I'm having fun. Like it's weird that I was a little kid once and there wasn't this much cool stuff to watch, but now I'm an adult and the world is insane and I need this stuff to watch. It's here.
Yeah, the world is insane and what's here to watch. The Zillow Beast. I always kind of forget when, but I'll ask you that in a second. I'll just give you my take first. Yeah, I mean, we're still talking about it because it's good. These characters are, again, this whole like consistent story arc being carried over throughout the season has been really fun and interesting to watch. If I had any criticism of this episode, is that I would say we only have one episode left, and I kind of don't think that we can wrap it all up, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not supposed to be all wrapped up. I think we're probably they're probably going to break Omega out and they're going to go somewhere and that's it. And it's going to be very much like a 22-minute episode or 25-minute episode of the show, and that's how it's going to end. Like, it doesn't feel like now, like we're going to get like, if I think of like the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars, or like the last episode of Rebels, we took Rebels, like, and understandably we had to get Thrawn out of there because Thrawn's not in A New Hope or Empire or Jedi, so we had to get him out of there. But still, like, I mean, the stuff that happens in the last couple episodes, Kanan dies, spoiler alert. He finally says "I love you" and they kiss for the first time to Hera,
and that gets her pregnant.
But I was gonna say, as we know, they off camera did a little bit more, and but and then Ezra. How many times as kid I say like, Freddie, I'm sorry. Sidebar, I'll tell a quick story about me saying like, when I was in college, when I was a senior, there was a woman interviewing to be a new teacher in our department, and she came to teach a class, and they wanted some of the seniors to be there and like ask questions and see how she reacted to being in a really interactive class. And I was talking the way I normally talk, which is I do say like a lot. I'm from Southern California. That's just what happens. And every time I said like, the first couple times, she had a real cringe on her face. Like she went like, and then she eventually started telling me like, can you please stop saying like, please, you need to stop it. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I tried to curb myself, and I can't. I just say it a lot. I'm sorry. And she got worse and worse, but they still gave her the job, which I was like, she's like publicly embarrassing me for my dialect, but anywho.
Also, handle it, educator. You come to me.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, get at me. I will say this show, as I think I forget what I was. Oh yes, that Clone Wars and Rebels ended so big, but both of those shows had like specific kind of stopgaps that they needed to hit. There was a certain, Clone Wars had to end before Order 66, and Rebels had to end before A New Hope, whereas Bad Batch, when the ending of this show doesn't have to line up with some sort of event in canon. So that's the one thing I say. I feel like going into this finale, it doesn't feel like it's just going to be like a normal episode of the show and it's just going to end. Like that's my only kind of like critique with the episode, is because it felt very much great the show that we get, the show that we love, the characters we love, but it just doesn't feel like we're headed towards like an earth-shattering. Like I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like in Rebels,
See, it doesn't feel like we're mounting up to series finale. It feels like we're
season finale,
season 1 finale cliffhanger.
Yes, 100%.
Maybe
not series.
Like you said, maybe it's not supposed to be an ending. We know that Rex is a rebel throughout the rebellion.
He's the old man in Endor, apparently.
That is there a space for Tales of the Bad Batch existing in that universe for 20 years or however long that is? Just kind of, we keep up with them through some kind of extended anthology series that's no longer called The Bad Batch. I just don't know.
We get it. We get a live action Omega played by Tamura Morrison. I mean, there's so many options
from your
there.
lips to God's ears. We just need it. We need it so bad. We need that blonde wig on him.
All right, talk to me about this Zillow Beast. I know we've only seen this thing in The Bad Batch, and I believe this is what, at the end of last season, this is what we're supposed to be cloning, right? This is the thing that we're trying to clone, correct?
Somewhat. So the Zillow Beast was introduced in Clone Wars, and it's got an indestructible hide.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
They found it and fought it on a certain planet, and then Palpatine was like, "Oh, we can make indestructible clone armor with it. We'll have to clone it." And so
that's
he kidnaps
right.
it.
That's right.
Takes it to Coruscant. It breaks out to try and kill him. They have a whole. That's the Godzilla episode of the Clone Wars, is fighting a giant monster in Coruscant. But it looks ridiculous. It's all like noodly and stuff. It's like,
yeah, and it feeds off electricity or something. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I saw that, and I saw in that reveal, and I was like, oh yeah, that's another thing too. Like, and if this is what happens, this is just us being guilty of stuff that, trying to make this show something that it isn't. Like, we've been talking about whether Snoke is going to show up or what we're going to, and I don't think we are going to get Snoke, but we have to remember that it's not our job to write the show. We're not the writers. Whatever they're doing is what they're going to do. And we just have to remember that and not be like, oh, well, I really thought this was going to end with a big reveal. It doesn't have to. That's me. That's me wanting something to be more than it is.
But we're not
taking it for what it is.
We're not attaching judgment or feeling to it. We're just saying that in other circumstances, the structure of the project has felt a little different given what we know is going to be coming. And this doesn't feel that way. We're conjecturing and showing curiosity about an outcome rather than saying if they don't do this, what are they doing, or taking some kind of ownership over it. Like, I think it's okay to speculate.
Oh, I think so too. And I think the thing about speculation is it has to come with the caveat of, this is speculation. This is not my truth. A lot of people get disappointed by content is because they're not taking it for what it is. They like have envisions in their head as to what it should be. And then when it doesn't live up to that, then it's somehow the creator's fault. But it's like, the creator's not making it for you. The creator's making something, and it's up to you to interpret what you see, not to criticize for the person not being in your head and creating what you think it should be. Like, no, like it doesn't exist yet.
I wonder what that turnover point is for people where, I think for a lot of a certain kind of person, the Cape space is a real escape. It's a world that feels better and makes more sense to a certain extent than maybe the one that most Cape Space fans find themselves living in. And then at a certain point, that enthusiasm for that escape space becomes the enthusiasm for the escape space as it is becomes a need for it to fulfill everything to that person.
Yes.
It can't just be the thing they appreciate. If it would be perfect, if it just wound up this way. And that doesn't give the creator the credit to be able to see things through on their own. And it's that, like, we coined the term here, the toxic ownership. And that's what it, but I just, where exactly can you do a CAT scan on somebody and see it in their brain when they go like, oh no, he's a Batman pervert now. We just saw it.
There's a blip. We're seeing, it's like the same thing when they're getting the blood tests every day from those kids, and they're taking those blood tests and getting those M counts. And that's what you can get. It's called the B counts or whatever, the B pervs.
They see see that spike, they go, "Oh, you're not allowed to vote anymore. You don't get to participate in society. We're sorry, you've proven yourself broken on a fundamental
And
level."
look, there's something too about ownership, like toxic ownership. There's in general, like, we're people who talk about this stuff every week, in that we, they're part of fandom. It's in there. Like, this is fandom, would matter what it is. If it's football, if it's basketball, if it's racing, if it's nerd stuff, like, you're a fan. This is, you're passionate about it, and like you're that, but it just straddles that full line. So by me saying like this isn't leading, this episode to me didn't feel like it was leading us to a series finale, is not me criticizing what I think is what the show is supposed to be doing. I'm just taking it on its face value. You know what I mean? Like, this is,
yeah. It wasn't
and
qualitative judgment. It was an observation of the I don't know, an objective observation of it.
Yeah, just look at, and the thing that, like, reason why I want to bring this up is because I don't think this show is going to do this, but this is a criticism of a lot of Disney Plus content, is leading into the finales for a lot of these shows. A lot of critics say things like, well, they still have a lot of work to do before this finale. And not that I feel like this show has a lot of work to do. I just don't feel like all the pieces are on the board. You know what I mean? And I know,
right,
what, like, going into a series finale, I want to know that, like, this is over here, this is over here, this is what the setup is, this is what we're going to be doing in 25 minutes, because that's how these are short shows. But I know that we have some things. We know that that's why I said this was kind of a table setty episode, is because we're still basically trying to get Omega out, which has been the through line for the past like 3 episodes.
And maybe what it is that beyond get Omega out, with the end of a series like on the horizon, we don't know what's beyond that. That's a very immediate goal, and there's no and then we don't know what Live Happily Ever After is going to look like, and it would be nice to know so we could be invested in it, in the stakes that, because at this point the stakes are get Omega profit ? I don't know. It's,
yeah. Well, there's also
too, like, I mean, laid out for us.
Well, I mean, Echo does want to. They do want to get the clones out too. So Echo does want to free everybody from Tantus. So there's that as well. But like, we also too, there's runway here. Like, we're maybe like two BB, whatever. Like 2 years since the Empire has taken on, maybe a year and a half since the Empire. We're not going to see. We have not seen another piece of Star Wars content until Obi-Wan, which was 9 years, I think, after. That sounds about right. 9 or 10 years.
9 BBY.
Yes. So there's still a lot of storyline that's in between there that we don't know, because by the time we're at Obi-Wan, there are no clones. It seems to me like it is just stormtroopers, and there's no clones in
the army, the Imperial Navy or whatever.
And the Imperial, because at one point on, Tamura Morrison was in like the second or third episode of Obi-Wan as just like a drunk clone, like sitting on the streets, because they've all been rejected. So maybe that's more of where this is headed, as opposed to, what Project Necromancer is doing. I think really, like, the true clones were the friends we made along the way.
Yeah, that's the real clone ship.
The real clone ship. We gotta start wrapping up here. Let's do it. Star Trek or Star Wars? X-Men.
X-Men was Star Trek once again.
Yeah, very clearly Star Trek. I mean, yeah, there's really no the fact that a human being turned into a robot, that's Star Trek, baby. There's no
and also it's like you could learn something from both of them, but only one of them was trying to teach you, which is, I think, a tenet of Star Trek.
Yes, and then Star Wars Bad Batch.
Star Wars, very Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly Star Warsy. So
thanks for
winners,
the
losers.
Great little joke.
Oh, excellent, right? Very good. All right, winners, losers. Winners. Who's your big winner?
Well, like I said earlier, it's just me. It's me. Like the time in my life when I needed the most candy, they started making the most candy, and they started making it pretty good. So there's so much stuff coming at us all the time from this crazy world, that being able to kind of slip away, and even and even look, X-Men 97 is dealing with heavy stuff that
very heavy.
Those a conversation around those issues that should be the biggest thing that's we're dealing with in a day.
Yeah,
but we're not, and
nope.
so it's just it's a nice escape. I continue winning.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my big winner again is still Guga. I mean, Guga is winning. We go to Madripoor in X-Men, and again, a person gets thrown off a building and turns into a robot. Like by dying, it activated Trask as a human robot sentinel. We had a giant lizard in the water being shot at with like a laser gun. I mean, we are just Guga. There's still like this Bad Batch still has like a weird furry koala baby making a bunch of baby noises. Like we are just Guga is having such a moment. And if we look, we could include Fallout. I mean, Fallout's doing well on Amazon. That show is chock full of Guga. So Guga is really
chock full of Guga is the next the next version of this show is just called Chock full of Guga.
Chock full of Guga. I love it. All right, big loser here again. I mean, this is like it's so stupid. It's so stupid that we're like flying to Madripoor, and Madripoor is surrounded by water. Like it's just.
And what lives on waters is boats.
Boats. They live. They're bred and they copulate and they breed on water boats. And Bucky and Sam's sister, they also copulate on that boat. But I can say copulate. And they yeah, it's just
has
kind
the word
of
cop in it, so it's legal.
It's just sad, frankly. You know, you're gonna go out of your way to put the Watcher in an episode, and like just like the outline of him in the upper right corner, like just drop that boat in there, man. Come on.
It's unconscionable, frankly, that all of my Fridays have to be ruined. Like I look so forward to talking about these things, doing the big broadcast, and then I have to. But then Kevin has been in the way of our ultimate happiness, willfully. Yep. I'll say at this point, and so yeah, just big loser. Big loser, Sam Wilson's fishing boat.
Well, that's another thing. I mean, going into this Deadpool movie, which seems like it's going to have everybody in it. I mean, God damn it, if that boat's not in it, pardon my French. Alex, do we have another ad read from the folks at KFC out there just dominating Indianapolis?
It's the Association of KFC Franchisees, and they have some seminars and meetings they wanted to highlight on the schedule. They have the Kitchen Connection, which is it's an employee-centered seminar. Which is about teaching the franchisee how to better serve those who serve. So it's about a human resources thing. There's a fun thing. Is it gravy? It's a fun game where you have to determine if the menu items we show you are real or made of gravy. And then finally, we have the Quickening, which is our ceremony to see whose soul is best fit to be consumed by the Colonel to fuel his insatiable need for dominion. So those are some of the fun events that are going on days and evenings at the KFC Franchisees Association.
That is what a terrifying event. You know what time it is now, though. You ready?
I do. I am ready. Yes.
Here we go. It's game time. It's time to play a game. Here we go. The most exciting time of your Friday.
And what a balm to the soul that is after talking about Sam Wilson's fishing boat every weekend. That's a nice thing to look forward to.
It really does, like, it really is chicken soup for the soul. Alex, what's the game? It's your turn. What are we playing this week?
This is a game I like to call Make 'em Say Mutant, the Ultimate Mutant Power Set Quiz. I'm going to say a power set. And give you a list of names of mutants. You're going to have to pick the mutant to whom this power set applies, right? So the first question, 3 adamantium claws in each hand and a healing factor. Is this Cyclops, Gambit, or Wolverine?
That's Wolverine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's going to get a little harder. That was just for example.
Okay.
This mutant could expose enemies' blood to increased oxygen, causing it to combust. Is this Adam X, Extreme, or Richard Butthole?
Adam X?
Yes, it's Adam X. That's correct.
Richard Butthole.
This mutant can generate, I think it's a pen name of Stan Lee. This mutant can generate completely sentient clones when impacted and can gain those clones' memories and experiences when he absorbs them. Is this Nemesis, Multiple Man, or No, honey, that was one of my clones, man.
Multiple man.
Multiple man. That's correct. This mutant has incredibly dense bones that grow into weapons and armor through her skin. Is this Burst, Marrow, or Osteoporonica?
Dude, Burst is almost as funny as Osteoporonica. I'm gonna say Burst.
It's Marrow, actually, is the character.
Marrow, what a lame name for your
The 90s,
Marrow.
dude. This mutant is possessed of a sentient digestive system in the form of 2 huge worms he lets out to feed. They give him super strength. Is this Maggot, Slug, or Hard Pass?
Hard Pass.
Maggot.
Wait, this is a real character named Maggot?
Yes.
Oh my
real
god.
Character, South African dude, 2 huge worms that eat people or things and then give him super strength. Okay.
God,
Number 6.
They did drugs in the 90s. Go ahead.
And not the good kind. This mutant has the ability to tear away skin and reveal materials beneath, like metal, wood, or glass. Is this Skin, Husk, or pass the oil of Olay, please, girl?
That's the oil of Olay, please, girl. Is that what you said?
Husk. Sister of Sam Guthrie, the human cannonball. Okay, so last question. This mutant is a hardline weirdo whose power is repelling sane, smart people via appalling choices and opinions. This mutant deserves to be thrown in a garbage dump full of used vaccine needles. Is this Nexus, Power Plant, or Ron DeSantis?
Ron DeSantis.
DeSantis, and that was, can't make him say mutant, the ultimate mutant power set quiz game.
Do you know the like trend on TikTok called mewing?
Yes, I do.
I had one of my kids who I teach improv been like, "Dude, you know how to mew?" And I was like, my reaction to that was, I feel like that's something that you're trying to trap me into, like admitting that I don't know what it is, but it's probably something really bad. So I'm just going to tell you to walk away. And then I came home and looked it up.
Dude, our young nephew's in his like very early 20s. Katie Rose and I were getting ready to go to like a brunch or something. He's like, "Oh, are you getting dressed for the darty?" I'm like, "Darty?" He said, "Yeah, it's like a day party. It's like a darty." And I'm like, "You're trying to mess with me. You're trying to mess with me. You're trying to convince me to say a word that's not a word. I'm going to use
That's not a word.
Snicker around. It is. College people, look on TikTok. Get ready for the darty. Get ready for the darty with me. I totally thought he was wrong. I went upstairs. TikTok darty. Totally a thing.
Look, here's the thing. I'm not one of these people who gets up and wants to tell you that, like, you know, I've been doing a lot of open mics and like 90% of the jokes are like people going like, "I don't get Gen Z and blah, blah, blah." And like, it was millennial jokes like, you know, 10 years ago. And there are some jerk offs that still are doing millennial jokes. But I'm like, millennials are like almost 45 years old. You need to like chill out with that. I'm not one of these people who doesn't think that like young people are, they're going to save us. We can't sit here and like rip on the fact that like Gen Z is too lazy or blah, blah, blah. Like, who cares? But that's stupid. Darty is dumb. Like it's
yeah,
you're
Darty
not
sucks.
saving, you're literally saving yourself like 2 letters by saying, not saying day party. Like you're just,
I think it too in this world of so
it's,
many
you're right. It's
good,
Generation
cool
Alpha.
novels.
Thank you. Thanks, Freddie. It's not Generation Z, it's Gen Alpha. I know. I'm just talking about.
No.
Yes.
But they're just the latest generation to get the bad rap. It was hippies
Yes, it
before.
moves.
It was beats. It was whatever. But I think, to me, Darty is devoid of any of the cleverness that most other slang possesses.
Yes.
Like, you know, I just felt, when I didn't know Darty, I felt real Skibbity Toilet with Ohio Level Riz. And that was...
Skibbity Toilet with Ohio Level Riz. Yes, thank you very much. That's fantastic.
Just, look, the young kids are the young people are saving us right now. They're doing it. And all you got to do, get a TikTok. When you hear a word you don't understand, Google it. And then you know. That's all it is. And you can do that
I need
forever,
to start doing
and
it.
You won't be cool. You will just know.
I did drop, I forget which word I was. I did drop a word in front of my improv class and they were like, whoa. Like I blew their mind that I knew what they were talking about. But yeah, I had some kid drop Skibbity
when
Toilet.
You said that you told them that in a way Shakespeare was the first rapper?
No, it wasn't. I I did have a kid take skibbity toilet in class this week, and then my daughter like 2 days later, like he said it, and I didn't know what it was, and I just was like, I know you're saying some stuff that you're not supposed to be saying in class, but whatever. And then my daughter was like, yeah, if anyone says skibbity toilet, Dad, that's that. I was like, oh yeah, someone just said that. Oh, okay, cool. Anyway, do you have another?
You should say I was just this. If they ever ask you what you're doing this weekend, say I was throwing out my gat for the Rizzler. Really?
No, we've done gat like a million times. That's what it was. Somebody said gat, and I was like, you can't just say gat and not rep. Like nobody had a big butt. You can't just say that. And they were like, that's what it was. They were like, oh no, he knows what our words are. And I was like, yeah,
yeah, dude.
I've told you people 100 times. I have a kid who's coming to this school next year. Like I know words. Anyway, we're at a point now where we got to get the hell out of here. It's Hoopla recommendations. Hoopla, you put in your library card to the app, to the on your iPad. You can go to your computer. We give you recommendations. You can read comics. Alex, you got a recommendation for the folks?
Just go into Hoopla, search Chris Claremont, read any of the X-Men things, and learn not only about the world around you, but maybe yourself.
I love it. I realized that there was something I wanted to plug, and then I forgot to look it up, and I was like, oh, I'll just plug Mob Psycho 100, which I plugged last week, which is I'm still loving. It's a fantastic little read, and now for whatever reason there we go, I can get on. I did find something. It is a manga, so if you gotta read it backwards, or read it frontwards if you're Japanese. But I found this week. I was looking up for other manga. I found something, Alex, and it's a manga, but it doesn't. They have it in Hoopla loaded in, reading like a regular comic or an American comic.
Western orientation.
Yes, thank you. It's called Bat Manga Volume 1. There was in the 60s, Jiro Kawada wrote a bunch of Batman manga, like got DC's permission and wrote a ton of stuff. This is basically like when the TV show came out, and it's really rad. It's really, really cool. It's like 60s stuff. It's really fun. Check it out. Bat Manga. It's on Hoopla. Do we have one more ad read from the KFC folks who are just dominating Indianapolis?
The KFC Franchisees Association, some of the events and panels they have going on this weekend. They have a seminar called The Play Place That Never Was, which will show off unused plans for playgrounds that were supposed to be at locations. The Mashed Potato and You, which is the secrets. They'll tell you the secrets to the fluffiest starch in fast food. And then we close it all off with The Ascension. Don't forget to wear your ceremonial robes and gather solemnly as we once again assemble the crystal shards and await the alignment when prophecy reigns and our dread kernel envelops the earth entire in a millennium of greasy darkness. One admission per valid convention credentials. So that's some of the events you can expect at the KFC Franchisees Association convention going through this weekend, all around Lucas Oil Stadium here in beautiful downtown Indianapolis, Indiana.
Oh my God. I talked about Ready Player 2 and about how it's terrible, the book. That's what they're doing. Instead of getting keys, what is it in the first one? In Ready, they have to get keys or whatever.
Yeah, eggs.
Eggs, there we go. And in Ready Player 2, they're getting shards. They're getting crystal shards. There's a lot of shard talk, and I'm just like, stop it. Anyway, this is the point of the show where what do our dogs think? Alex, what do your dogs think of all this animation guga?
Well, I've been surrounded by even more dogs than usual. My wife is out of town, and I've been running the dog business that she started. So it's just been nice to be home and watch some stuff while surrounded by 25 appreciative dogs.
Are you for real?
Not 25, but there have been like 8 or 9 at a time.
I know your wife has a dog walking business and all that stuff, but 25 is aggressive.
That's a lot of dogs.
That's a lot of dogs. I don't think it's even legal. You can't have more than like 10 in your like residence or something like that. Other than that, it's considered hoarding. It's illegal.
I'll be walking like 5 dogs, and somebody will like wave to me to get me to take my headphones out. Are they all yours? By the way, in your day-to-day life, when you walk around and see people behaving this aberrantly, definitely stop them. Definitely stop them and engage with them. If you think that this is aberrant, definitely stop them.
Well, I always love that people talk to you when you have your earbuds in, and it's like, oh, how cute. You don't understand how headphones work, and know that these aren't like medical, like I'm listening to something right now, so I can't You can walk up to me and start moving your lips. I can't hear you. So I love to make a big like show of it and go like,
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
I
what?
want to next time it happens. I want to do this. Oh, hey, Dad, hold on a second. Tell the doctor to stop for a second. This woman wants to ask me if the dog is brown. I'm sorry. Did you want to know about the dog being brown?
Do it. Do it. My dog would never left the bedroom. She's all out. She's not in the second I came on air today, she got the hell out of here. So she's deaf. Whatever happened this week, she's not in. She's out. All the way out.
That's fine. You got
I
to
know
do
it's
you.
tough. You got to do you, and we got to do us, and we just did us for an hour and 40 minutes. We did it. Alex, where can the folks find you?
At Duke_midnight on Threads, TikTok, and wherever major magazines are sold.
I'm at Kenny G. Stevenson on Twitch and TikTok, which I'm currently just on TikTok looking for the youth and their and their slang terms. But Kenny G. Donut King at Threads and Instagram. I've been doing a lot of the hashtag wars every day for at midnight, which I've loved that show. So follow me there. We'll be back next week with another show. I'm assuming we're going to be talking about the finale of Bad Batch. So
we'd better.
That's LFG. Although next week, the Fall Guy comes out. We're hitting like the summer movies. We're gonna get in some big, like, we got the Fall Guy, and then the week after that we got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, a movie I don't want to watch.
No.
I'll watch the Fall Guy though. That looks great.
Not Cape Spacey though.
It's Cape Space adjacent, because the movie that he is doing, that Emily Blunt is making, that Ryan Gosling's the stunt person is like a sci-fi movie.
We could do a whole series, a retrospective on fake science fiction movies in regular movies. We could start with Argo.
That's
Fall
true.
Guy is in there. Galaxy Quest is sort of on the bubble.
Yes.
Exploration of the
I don't know. Let's
that.
maybe we'll go see it, and then we'll decide. I mean, it looks good. I want to see it regardless anyway. But I mean, Ryan, I've said it before on this big broadcast. I'd watch Ryan Gosling, eat a pizza. So it's all good for me.
I'd watch Ryan Gosling eat me. Wait, I mean, I not in like,
definitely,
but in the way,
definitely
like
can't say that on Twitch.
I mean, like if it was like he was eating me like a meal person, like I was food, and that would be
I'll just say
bad for me.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, I do just want to plug Ryan Gosling. If you have not watched the Beavis and Butthead SNL sketch, do yourself a favor right now and go watch it. It's one of the funniest things I've seen. Watch that, and then watch the Kristen Wiig Jumanji sketch from 2 weeks ago before that, and just have a great rest. Oh, and I did last week. You recommended the Conan Hot Ones. Watch that too. Just absolutely, you want to have a really fun afternoon. Watch the Conan Hot Ones, then watch the Jumanji sketch, and then the Beavis and Butthead sketch, and you will have a nice little 45-minute lunch break, and you will be laughing the whole time. Right on.
Giggle your way into the weekend, baby.
Giggles for the weekend. All right, we got to get out of here. Say bye.
All the minutes. We used up all the streaming minutes. Bye.
All the streaming minutes. Bye.